Hello VC, Jeff here. It's been a while since I made a video. I know I made like 4 videos in 1 week, and then last week I didn't do any. Sorry. That's just the way it works out. First shift isn't very conducive to making videos, so we're now past that. And good thing, I'm off today, and we got a pretty good snowstorm here overnight and through this morning. So much so that I couldn't take the kids to school today because guess what? The Mustang that I drive is absolute garbage in snow. I really need to get rid of that car and get something a little more practical, gas efficient, you know, stuff like that. I've had this thing for, it'll be 11 years this year, so I've zoomed around plenty. But anyway, I'm home safe now. I actually had to dig the car out of the street because it got stuck in the snow because the plows hadn't come by. And looking out the window now, I see that the plow did go by, so at least I'm not stuck here in the house if I don't want to be. But nobody's home, so that's fine with me. I don't mind being home. And of course, it's like 30 outside, 35, and tonight it's going to drop to like 0. And then tomorrow and Wednesday, the high is supposed to be like -12, which is just insane. So we're going to have to bundle up and hunker down. It's cold. All right, I'm already babbling, and I feel like I'm out of practice at making videos after a week. Weird. This is a Spin Zone video, but I got a bunch of stuff to talk about before I get to records. So hopefully you'll find it interesting. If not, and you want to fast forward until you see me holding up records, I understand. But first I want to give a couple of shout outs to newer channels that I think you guys might be interested in. The first one is by a guy named Gary Holmes. He had just posted his first video, and it's the vinyl tag, his vinyl tag video for 2019. So I checked it out and I subscribed to him. He'd reached out to me and said that he made his first video, and so I watched it. And of course, want to encourage everybody to make videos, make more videos for the VC, even though there's already too many. Who cares? So I'll put a link down below to his channel if you want to check that out, and maybe you'll like to subscribe too. So seems like a good guy, and for his first video he did pretty good. The other one I want to say is, and I think this has been mentioned before, there's a channel called the Irving Park Vinyl Review. He's a Chicagoan as well. Hopefully sometime in the future be able to meet up like at a record show or something. That'd be cool. I've watched his channel over the last little while now, and he's putting out some really good stuff too. So I'll put a link to both of those channels down below if you guys are interested. And show them a little love, because, you know, VC is all about sharing the love. So if I can pay it forward the way it was paid forward to me, then that makes me happy. It's been over a week since I made my last video, and in the meantime I went to the Robyn Hitchcock concert, which wasn't this past Saturday, it was the Saturday before. And that was another day where the weather was really crappy. It was super cold. You know, there was plenty of ice on the roads, some snow, you know, and this venue was a very small, very intimate, I think it was like a 400-seat venue, and it was maybe half full, maybe. And me and my wife went out to dinner first, and then we went to the place, and come to find out that Robyn's plane was delayed apparently because of the weather, and for some reason, I guess one of the passengers was sick before takeoff, so they had to be taken off the plane or something, because he was flying from Dallas to Chicago. So we get there, and the show is supposed to start at 7:30. They apologize for the delay. They say maybe we're hoping he'll be here by 8:30. So we're hanging out. And it turns out that they found an opening act to entertain the troops before Robyn showed up, which, you know, it was okay. It was just a guy playing acoustic guitar. Nothing special. But it was decent. And so he played for a good half hour. And Robyn did not hit the stage till 9. So I guess he got from the airport right to the venue and right on stage with no warm-up or sound check or anything. So he gets introduced and he gets comes out onto the stage with his guitar and he's tuning it and talking to us at the same time and talking to the sound man in the back, you know, where he wanted things set, and giving us some good banter. And if you've ever seen Robyn live, you'll know that he's good for that. So the show he didn't really start playing until 9, and it was just, you know, him solo with an acoustic guitar. Fantastic. He played a bunch of songs that I recognized, a couple I didn't, and he did 2 sets. So he played for about an hour, hour 10, hour 15-ish, and then he took a break, and then he was going to come back and play a second set. The only problem was I'd been up since about 4 that morning because I had to clear the driveway so I could get to work because it was snowing then too. And of course I worked all day, and then, you know, by 10 o'clock that night I was getting kind of tired. So me and the wife got up to stretch our legs during the break. We walk outside and he has a merch table which appeared. It wasn't there before the show. And I was pissed off because I didn't have enough cash on me to buy a record because he was signing stuff after the show. So he had the CD and LP version of an album called Tromso Captain, which apparently was only made available as a physical copy in Norway, but he had copies there. And he also had a CD of, it was a Soft Boys CD of something that I never heard of, but I didn't have any. I had like 10 bucks on me. I didn't think to bring money with me because I didn't think there would be a merch table because this was such a small show. So I was kind of mad at myself about that. And my wife's like, oh, we should stay, you know, because she wanted to see the show too. And I'm like, babe, we gotta go. I'm too tired. It's gonna take, you know, it took us an hour to get home as it was. So we ended up leaving after the first set. So would I ever see Robyn Hitchcock again? Absolutely. My wife didn't really know too much about him or his music. I played a couple of songs for her. I played the live album that I have, Storefront Hitchcock, for her. And she seemed to like it. She's like, he's quirky, isn't he? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, he really is. But she was a good sport about it, and she's enjoyed herself. And if I was able to get something signed after the show, I probably would have toughed it out and stayed. But as it was, I had to go. So from what I saw, he's a great performer. And doing this show on the fly with no warm-up or no sound check or nothing, just basically walking on stage cold and just killing it, shows what a consummate professional and great musician Robyn is. So it was a great show from what I saw. And I'm hoping, I think he's coming back around here in April, but April's going to be a busy month for me for concerts. I've already got 2 lined up, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze a 3rd in. We'll see. But that was my Robyn Hitchcock story. And if I'd had the cash, I know, Hannah, you're a fellow fan of Robyn Hitchcock, I would have got you something, whether it was a CD or an LP or whatever signed for you. But I blew it. I'm sorry. I'm still kicking myself over that one. It's just one of those things. I never have cash on me, you know? And whenever I do, it's gone like that. 2 kids will do that to you, you know? But anyway, that's that. The other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about before I show records, and this is slightly embarrassing, but I'm just going to go ahead with it. I've had a couple of dreams here lately about VC members. Nothing weird like that. Don't start going in that direction at all. But I had 2 dreams this past week, and there were people from the VC in the dreams. Yeah. First one was with my buddy Bobby Z, who, and I told him about this on Facebook. I messaged him and I told him about it. He thought it was kind of funny. Had this dream where he and I were sitting in a car, and it was like an older car, you know, like probably from like maybe the 70s. You know, it had a big bench seat in the front seat. And I know cars today don't really come with bench seats as the front seat anymore, do they? And he and I were sitting there in this car, older car, and we're parked on a side street. It's a sunny day, and he's sitting there, you know, he's got his glasses on, he's got his sleeveless t-shirt on, you know, he's just kicking back, and he's laughing his ass off. And if you've watched Bobby Z's videos, you know how infectious his laugh can get. So he's cracking up, and it's kind of making me crack up too, even though I don't really know what the hell's going on. So then, you know, it's a warm day. We got the windows rolled down. We're parked, laughing his ass off, and he says something that makes absolutely no sense, because dreams never make sense. And this is what it says, and that makes him crack up even harder. He says, Istanbul. Even in the dream, I don't even know what that means. I'm like, what? And he's like, Istanbul, and he busts out laughing again. And then he leans his head out the window and he goes, Istanbul! And he's laughing even more. And then I'm laughing. It was bizarre. So I guess our secret code word, Bobby, is Istanbul. For what? I don't know. But it made you laugh like nothing else. And it spilled over onto me too. That was weird, but dreams are weird. What can I say? The other day, a couple days after that, I dreamed about my buddy Brad. He's at H2 Vinyl. And he and I have been friends on the VC almost since the very beginning, since I've been here. And he's working, in the dream, he's working at this, it's like a Best Buy. It's like one of those big box electronics superstores. I think Best Buy is the only one that's left these days. And I'm walking in there, and he sees me, and I think he's like the manager or something. And he says, hey Jeff, how you doing? Da, 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 da. And you know, we're talking back and forth. He goes, hey, I got something for you. I said, okay. So he goes, here, sit here. And there's this big leather chair in the store. So I sit down, and he brings out this humongous book. It must have been about this thick. And I know he likes this because I've seen him mention this in his videos before. But it's the comic version of Akira, which I happen to own, which Dark Horse Comics reprinted, I think, like 20 years ago or so, in, you know, phone book size books like this. It's a 6-volume set. But the book that he gave me was all of them in one. So it was probably, you know, about this thick. And he just plunks it on my lap. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And he's like, oh, you'll love it. You know, just start reading it. It's great. This is one of my favorite things. You'll love it. And I'm like, but Brad, I've got this already. And he's like, don't worry about it. It's on me. And he pulls out this big wallet. he had a wallet. It was bigger than my hand. You know, it had like snaps and zippers on it, and he opens it up and he pulls out, you know, like a piece of paper, and he goes, "Oh, I gotta call this guy. I'll be right back." And he just leaves. So I'm sitting there with this big book in my lap of Akira. Weird. And just as a quick aside, Akira was also made into a movie. I've got the special edition of it here. The movie came out, I think, in 1988. And if you only know Akira by the movie and you've never read the comic version, you're really missing out, because the comic version of Akira is probably something close to maybe 800 or 1,000 pages of story. Condensed down into just a 2-hour movie, a lot doesn't make the transition. So if you're a fan of Akira, and but you only know it by the movie, which is, it's a great movie, by the way, do yourself a favor and track down these books. There's 6 of them. They were reprinted. I don't know if they're still in print or not, but they should hopefully be available in some format somewhere. Do yourself a favor and read the comic version. It's really good. And it was part of my dream. So, there you go. I guess I'm so into the VC now I'm dreaming about you guys. I don't know. Okay, we're almost at the 17-minute mark. Now we're going to get to the records. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 6 records to show from the past week. First one being Hot Rats by Frank Zappa. This is probably the one album that I think almost everyone can agree on is great from the Frank Zappa catalog. Me included. I'd streamed this album a couple times before I tracked down a vinyl copy. There's the back. It's on Bizarre Records. And the guitar work on this album is pretty stellar, I have to say. And even though Beefheart sings, if you call his singing, his vocal stylings singing, on Willie the Pimp, it's probably the only place that I've found so far where I've been able to tolerate Beefheart. And he just sings at the beginning, and then Frank takes over with the guitar, and it turns into this long instrumental jam, which is awesome. But I bought the Apostrophe album recently, so I wanted to listen to the 2 Zappa albums that I had in order first, so I listened to this one. And like I said, I was already familiar with it, so it was a pleasant experience. Hot Rats by Frank Zappa. That was the first one. The second one, and most of these, again, I've posted on social media, is Madonna's first album. I bought this at an estate sale last year, I think early last year, and it was only a couple of bucks. It was in mint condition, so I decided to just spring for it, and it was good. You know, it's pretty, I mean, it's fairly dated sounding. You know, it's just a synth pop dance record. But, you know, even though I've heard Borderline, I don't know, a couple thousand times in my lifetime just on the radio or wherever I would happen to catch it, I listened to it again on this record, and it ended up stuck in my head for a couple more days. Why? I don't know. But this was a, you know, it's a pretty good album. And Red had sent me a couple other Madonna albums, which I wanted to play all 3 in a row and show in this video back to back to back, but it just didn't work out that way. So you'll probably see those other albums in the near future. But for now, all I was able to play was Madonna's self-titled album. Then, another one of my wife's cousin's records, that I bought. This is the self-titled Blind Faith album. I played this just the other day. I didn't really play very many records over last week, so all the rest of these I played either over the weekend or just today. I used to have Blind Faith on cassette. Here's the back cover. It's just got lyrics on it. Used to have this on cassette back in the day, but with the topless girl holding the silver plane was the cover. And this is the, I guess, the clean cover. But of the records I bought from my wife's cousin, this one was in the roughest shape visually. You know, it had several scuffs on it, and it looked like it might have been kind of, you know, kind of iffy on sound, but it played great. It played through all the scuffs. Very little background noise, and the sound was fantastic. So it was like listening to this album for the first time all over again. And this album should have been more of a guitar jam, since you had Clapton, but you know, he acquits himself well. And of course, I'm a fan of Steve Winwood. I can listen to him sing all day long, so this was a great one, as you probably know. And it's, you know, it's a 50-year-old album now. It came out in '69, so Blind Faith's self-titled album. Then Christmas VCLT from DJ High Noon, who sent me this right before Christmas last year. This is the self-titled album by Klaatu. This was the band that everybody thought was the Beatles for some reason, and I'm not really sure why, listening to it now, because vocally it sounds nothing like the Beatles at all. It doesn't sound like any of them. Musically, I could kind of see the similarities, but it was more Beatlesque by way of ELO to my ears. It sounded very ELO-ish with the sound effects and the melodies. It struck me as more of an ELO type record than Beatles record, so it would just be filtered through them, is where I was able to see the influences. Decent record. You know, I actually liked side 1 a little bit more than side 2. And of course, my wife listened to this with me and she liked side 2 better, so go figure. Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft. This was the lead-off track. Was really kind of interesting. It was almost like the Moody Blues were almost kind of mixed in with the ELO / Beatlesque sound to me. But I liked it. You know, it was pretty good. And when I posted this on Instagram, the Digital Gramophone compared this album to the VC as to what Herb Alpert's Whipped Cream and Other Delights were to the Goodwill stores. Guess a lot of people show this album, huh? Well, you got me showing it now too. A decent listen, you know. Wasn't mind-blowing, but I think I spent more time trying to figure out the Beatles comparisons. So I may have to just listen to this again with just a relaxed, open mind. But from what I heard, it was pretty good. It was decent. So thank you once again, Tim, for this album. Alright, then yesterday, I finally got around to playing the new Neil Young set, Songs for Judy. This is taken from his 1976 tour. I guess it was recorded November of '76, right around election time of that year. And it's a double album. And it's all solo acoustic Neil. So basically, almost all of the songs that he played that way up to this point are here. You know, he plays Heart of Gold. He plays Too Far Gone. Love is a Rose, After the Gold Rush, Human Highway, Mr. Soul, you know, Harvest, The Old Laughing Lady, Neil and the Damage Done. And the album starts with a lot of his banter before he starts playing, but after that, it's pretty much just song after song after song, with very little interaction from Neil. So if you're a fan of solo acoustic Neil, then this album is for you. And I'm a big fan of that, so this album went down just fine. And I bought this, it was on sale at Amazon for like $14.99. So I don't know what the price is now, but if you guys are interested, check Amazon, because chances are you may be able to get this for less than 20 bucks. And it's worth it. It's a 2-record set, and it sounds fantastic. So I don't really know what else to say about about Neil Young at this point. I mean, if you like him, then you're going to like this album. So I'd say pull the trigger and get it while you still can, while it's still for a hopefully decent price. I'm hoping it still is. Songs for Judy. And finally, I listened to this morning because as I was putting away my last batch of records from my last Spin Zone, I'd forgotten that I had this album here, The Graduate. So when I was putting the bookends away under my Simon & Garfunkel part of my collection, I came across this, and I'd forgotten I had it, actually. I know my collection is starting to get to that size where I'm starting to forget what's there. And this was actually a record from my parents, and it was one of the rare few records that survived, and it's a mint condition record. So I got to show you the Columbia 2i label. It's actually the Columbia Masterworks label, as you can see there, with the gray label instead of red. And it's got the 360 sound on the label as well. And it's an absolutely mint condition. I must have cleaned this when I first got it because it was in a MoFi sleeve when I pulled it out of the shelf. The only thing is it's got a bit of a warp to it, but it's really only noticeable on side 1. Like the up curve is on side 1, and when I flipped it over onto side 2, it seemed to lay flatter. So I listened to this just this morning, actually just before I set my phone up to do this video, and played it, and it just sounds amazing. And it's mostly, I mean, it's a mix of Simon & Garfunkel songs and like background music. So like you get Sounds of Silence as the lead-off track, which is basically the same version of that song that we all know. And then like the rest of side 1 is a lot of instrumental, big bandish, jazzy kind of music. And then on side 2 you get more Simon & Garfunkel. You get Scarborough Fair, which is pretty much the same version that's on their album, I think by the same title, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, Thyme. You get alternate versions of Mrs. Robinson with just the guitar riff on some parts, and like even on side 1 there's a version of Mrs. Robinson where it's just them singing part of the lyrics and playing the riff, you know, slightly different on the guitar. And then the album ends with another version of Sounds of Silence, which is just acoustic guitar and Simon & Garfunkel singing. So as like a Simon & Garfunkel album, it's really only a partial one. There's really only like 2 or 3 songs that you'd recognize as Simon & Garfunkel, but listen to it as a whole was pretty enjoyable. And like I said, with it being mint condition 2i Columbia, the sound was amazing. So I still stand by my assertion that the 2i Columbias were the best. Okay, we're at 29.5 minutes. I'm going to cut this off here. I don't want the camera to cut out, so thank you for liking and commenting and subscribing. I'm almost at 500. There might be a contest, I don't know, but I'm going to cut it off here. So thank you everyone, and I will see you again soon.